yet another CME. If you guys don't recognize the gentleman in the nice hat, this is Dr. Sandani. I can tell you, this whole table is like complimenting your hat. Swathi hat? Very good. I bet voice recognition won't be able to interpret that one. We'll try it in a little bit. Today I'm going to be talking about voice recognition and Fluency, the new M-Modal software that we have that has replaced Dragon. And just a show of hands, how many people here are currently or have previously used voice recognition for documentation or other things? Very good. Who here has used voice recognition software for anything other than voice recognition? Scripting, improving workflows, and that sort of thing. And Dr. Siddiqui has. So if you haven't been doing that, you've only reached the tip of the iceberg with what your voice recognition software can do. It really enables some more functionality within the EMR, or it allows our EMR to perform more like we would like it to without the need to wait for Meditech to develop something more. So for this morning, I'm going to start off talking a little bit about how the voice recognition works with M-Modal Fluency Direct, which from going forward, let's just call it Fluency. How about that? So we'll talk about the voice recognition and some of the simple things with that. If you need a more one-on-one session, we'll have you contact Gail, and Gina has been heading up a lot of the voice recognition to get you calibrated, to get you a mic, and to get you started. But it's really easy. So easy even Dr. Cochran can do it. So it's very easy. You started it, Bruce.
I'm going to have Brian start talking again.
But the Seinfeld episode that was playing when you walked in was actually done on purpose. And it was the one where Jerry got his dad, the PDA, remember the days of the personal data assistants, whatever those was? His dad looks at it and goes, "Ah, tip calculator." And he was all excited, and Jerry, the whole episode is like, "Dad, but it does so much more than that." And he's like, "No, it's a tip calculator. I owe this guy 4.67777 cents. And the episode goes on, and then down the road, Kramer buys him for the whole board at Del Boca Vista. Yeah, I watched the whole episode last night. And instead of the wizard, he goes online. He goes on the street and gets a handful of Willards. And the Willards don't quite work as well as the wizards. I don't know if Fluency is the Willard of Dragon or not, but together we're all going to find out. Actually, initially, the feedback that I'm getting from people using Fluency that have used Dragon, and I'll open it here for you guys to give me feedback as well, is that Fluency is as good or better. Would you guys agree or disagree for anyone that's used Dragon? Cheryl?
Yeah, I've tried Dragon before, and it could not really pick up my voice. I've been told I have a very soft voice, and I would get very frustrated. So I'm learning how to use this new system, and it is better, you know.
Okay.
I just need to know more about commands.
Yep, so, and commands is what we're going to spend the bulk of the talk on today. And then in the beginning here, and I'm going to pull this up, can you hit F9 on my computer? So where we're going to start is we're going to log into Meditech here, and then we're going to talk about how we actually teach our Dragon. Because for Fluency to work, there you go, it's working. For Fluency to work, we actually need to be able to teach it. Now, it doesn't learn intuitively. When it makes a mistake, it doesn't say, "Oh, I made a mistake." You actually have to go in and say, "Hey, Fluency, you made a mistake. I said Roy Martson, and you put in Roy Mar's son." You highlight that, you say correct that, and then next time you say Roy Martson, by golly, it pops up Roy Martson. My most recent, actually real life thing yesterday, day before, Dr. Schuster, radiation ontology down in Johnson Creek, Dr. Shoe Store, Dr. Shoe Store. And you say it 6 different ways, Dr. Shoe Store. And then I say correct that, or I say correct Dr. Shoe Store, and it highlights it, and then it brings up the box and says, "What do you want to call this?" And I type in Schuster. We'll go through that, and now when I say Dr. Schuster, by golly, it comes up Dr. Schuster. So that's some of what we'll look at today. Now, I apologize, I'm a little far away from you. We'll see if we can get this guy to work for us. And good. So you guys are familiar with the app as it appears on your phone or on your computer, and you can move this thing around, move it out of the way. But most importantly is the little lip that comes down when you hover over the icon there on your screen. And when you click on that to enlarge it, this is where it gives you everything that Fluency is able to do. One big advantage reading internet feedback of Fluency over Dragon is the simplicity. The biggest negative with Fluency, or with Fluency under Dragon, is the lack of sophistication. I think Dragon you could do a lot more scripting and there was a lot more things you had to do, but the learning curve was a lot higher. So for us just starting out with voice recognition, Fluency is actually really good for new users. When you first log on to Fluency for your first time, or if you're at a new computer, you'll want to go in and set up the microphone. If you haven't got one of the handheld microphones, I do find they work very, very well. There is an app you can download on iPhone and Android, which initially worked really well, and then I've had connectivity problems with it. Has anyone else had experience with the app? Yeah, you guys, because I had you do it in the beginning, and we all had the same trouble in my office, yeah. If you haven't been using the iPhone app, at this point I don't recommend it. The handheld mics are much better. You know, they're hardwired into the USB drive. If you need one, I guess contact Gail. Yep. And Gail will see to it that you get one. They're plug and play. USB technology is great. You plug it in, it says, hey, there's a new microphone there. And then you come into this first setup screen and say, yep, I want to use that mic. And then you let it know which button you want to hit to record. Intuitively, it would be the big red record button that's right in the middle of the mic. And then away you go. Calibrate it. Whether you use it in a quiet room or a loud room, I find it works really well. And I've had that experience recently because Dr. Sullivan's on vacation and we share an office. And if you share an office with that guy, you'll swear you can't hear. He just talks louder and louder and louder. But, you know, whether Mike's in the room or not, I haven't had to recalibrate my mic. Leslie, John, have you guys had any issues with that? Yeah. So it works really well in all different settings. They do recommend if you're having a lot of trouble, maybe if you're in the post-op area of the OR or, you know, just a loud day in the office, if it's not recognizing your mic, they recommend you come into the calibration screen, you read a couple lines of text, and then it says, okay, we're done, you're good to go. I think it takes 20 seconds to calculate the gain is what they recommend. So that's all we're going to talk about on microphone calibration. Before I go any further, once you have Fluency opened on your screen, everything that I'm talking about and referencing you can access by hitting the F1 button. If you write one thing down today, write down the F1 button. This user's manual is excellent. This will teach you how to do all the correct. It'll let you know what speech commands you can use, and you know, if you want to be really fancy and boldface and underline things and do all that, you'll learn it all here. All the stuff I'm going to talk about, how to build commands, is all summarized really nicely in here as well. So when Fluency is open, you hit F1 and it loads the help screen, and I think that should answer pretty much any questions that you have. So coming back to the lip, there's got to be a better name than lip for that, but lip works so well. We go into personalization, and with personalization, this is where you teach the microphone how to understand Cheryl Peterson, how to understand Stephen LeGros. And, you know, through this there is the dictionary, there are abbreviations, and then we get into commands, formatting, medical specialty. The dictionary, you can access it through here. So when we were first setting this up for Watertown, Gail and Gina had met with the Fluency people that came out, and they worked on the dictionary. Most of the local provider names are in there. Surrounding cities are in there. You know, it can spell Oconomowoc instead of just giving you the circle of death. You know, like I'm thinking. And then most of the medical abbreviations are in there. In working with this for the past maybe 2 months now, I think there's a lot more we can do on the back end, and I think after this CME, when we get more feedback from more people using Fluency, we'll be able to really bulk up those dictionaries so we're not all having to build them individually. But, you know, the QID to 4 times a day and the QD to every day and all that stuff. It's all built in there, and it's built in a way that when you say patient has GERD, it actually, the output is gastroesophageal reflux disease. And you can go in and change that if you'd like, but who wants to say gastroesophageal reflux disease 14 times in a day? I've already got 2, I've got 12 more. So also under the personalization, well, the dictionary, and we're going to look at that in just a sec, and then we'll look at abbreviations, and then we'll move on to commands, which is where I want to spend the most of our talk today, because that's probably the least explored part of this, and it's the part that I feel has the most potential. So if you go into dictionary, just to take a look at it, when you go in here, it is divided into sections: name, location, medication, procedure, diagnosis. Not only does that help us organize the dictionary to, say, well, did I ever update Anshul Sood's name and put it in there? But I think more importantly, this is helping the algorithm for the voice recognition software behind the scenes. Because, you think in terms of computers, everything's in terms of numbers, right? Zeros and ones and patterns. And voice recognition works much better if you're using things in context than if you're trying to say one word at a time and saying it louder and louder and louder, because it just won't pick it up. If you actually use it in context, it's going to help, because John Basarich went to the store, it's going to say, John Basarich, that looks like a noun, it's maybe a proper noun, and here it is under name, and it's going to find it very quickly. So that's why it's important to put things under the right category. If it's something that doesn't fit anywhere, you can put it in the other category. And then on the very bottom, the last category there is excluded words. And George Carlin did a skit on the 7 words that you're never supposed to use. And they're all 7 words that really should default in there, but they don't. And they are the 7 swear words, which I'm not going to repeat. I did practice them, so I can go through them really quickly. And kind of what's funny about it is if you actually want to exclude those words, you have to actually type them in there. So you got to do it once so you never mess up, and it won't pick that up anymore. But anyway, so excluded words are words that will never appear. So once they're in there, you don't have to worry about, as we all see it in voice recognition reports, words that don't fit, and you try to mad gab it together to understand what they were saying. This will help keep any profanity out or anything else that you didn't want to say. Any questions on what we've covered so far? Any questions on dictionaries? Does it kind of make sense? Is it too much, too fast? Okay. Then we'll move on. Let me see. So that's the dictionaries. Abbreviations are set up in the same way. And this is where you can go in, and if you click add, you can say, I want to say CPE, and then the output will be C.P.E. or comprehensive physical exam, or whatever you want it to say. With different specialties, there are different abbreviations which are recognized by specialty, but again, talking to Ron before, there are some new PSA testing that you're doing, and you might want to just be able to quickly say PSA MDX or whatever that was, and then it can spell out more of the name in a descriptive fashion. So that's some of the dictionary stuff that you can pre-build. But I find it much easier to just build things on the fly. And I think if I go into my practice here, and they gave me a test patient, let's go into a document, and let's just see how this works in real time. Excuse me, I'm doing this with my left hand. All right, so we'll go into the text box here, the chief complaint. And where is this thing? So do I have an active cursor in there? All right. Next line. I'm here today presenting at CME for people to learn how to use voice recognition, period. I practiced yesterday saying Dr. Schuster's name, and now I need to practice using Dr. Samdani's name. Using doctors and uneasiness. Correct, Dr. Samdani. See, that's supposed to work. Correct, using doctors and uneasiness. See if it'll pick that up. No, correct, using doctors and uneasiness. So once it finally does, you know what, and I should have done doctors and uneasiness, shouldn't I? Cancel. Correct, doctors and uneasiness. And then this is what brings up that screen where you can put in Dr. Samdani. Now, I'm surprised his name is not in the dictionary.
Usually you don't want to put the word doctor in there because it knows DR period when you're speaking that.
It will?
Yeah. They really want the proper name just.
I don't think this is going to work. I'm sorry I'm picking on you today, Dr. Samdani. Did that work, you think? Dr. Samdani?
That's doctor's using.
Correct, Samdani. And this can be very frustrating. Correct, Samdani. And, all right, hey, you got one.
You guys say Samdani.
Try Mozart.
Thank you, Bruce. You haven't failed until you've tried and failed. That's what my dad always tells me. All right. So maybe this will work. And then it's going to ask me to put it in a category. And you'll see it also kind of gives you the phonetic pronunciation here. And then we can hit save. And then please say Dr. Samdani correctly this time. And whew, it worked. But you kind of see how it works. I find it very difficult to do everything with voice. I think it's good to have one hand free for the keyboard. But once you've done this, it will remember names. I think Dr. Grasky's not here, but I think his name is in there. Dr. Grasky, Dr. Samdani, and Dr. Schuster all got together for a game of poker. So once this is put in there, it's pretty good at recognizing it going forward. So it's worth the little extra time getting the names right and getting some of those things right. Other things that you can do, boldface Schuster, you can, see that didn't work either. Select Schuster, boldface text. You notice how it went back and did shoe store again? That wasn't supposed to happen. Dr. Schuster. Select Dr. Schuster. Select text. And so on. So it can be frustrating. Yeah, which is why voice recognition is one thing. Trying to do the fancy stuff doesn't always work, but the commands do. And that's where the best of this comes from. Yeah, go ahead.
Corrections peculiar to your text, or is it globalized to the larger fluency?
Oh,
Once
this,
you corrected Samdani, am I going to get a correct Samdani?
no.
Well, you should do a repronunciation with your voice because you may emphasize the syllables differently. So a lot of times when Gina was first sitting with physicians for the first time, we go look at the doctor dictionary there and have you highlight some of those names and practice saying those so they can recognize them right away. I think part of your issue when some of that, I don't know if
Yep.
you said Dr. Schuster every single time.
I know, it's,
You know, some of those little idiosyncrasies that it's looking for, you know, demoing versus really doing what you're doing.
yeah, no, exactly. And again, when you're taking things out of context, it doesn't read nearly as well as when you do things in context. I do find the voice recognition is pretty good. The way my brain works, I have trouble picking up the misprints as it goes, but I'm really good at picking them up when I look back, and I'm kind of appalled sometimes. So it's definitely something that you'll want to be careful and look at. So the regular straightforward dictation looks okay. We touched on how the dictionaries work and how you can make corrections.
So let's say you did your dictation. Can you go back now and correct things that are wrong and make it, instead of like right when you do it? Could you go back now and correct?
Yeah, you can. Like say, I practiced yesterday saying Dr. Schuster. Select I practiced yesterday. I practiced 2 days ago. That kind of thing you can do. Does that answer your question? Okay. Then moving on to commands. So this is where you start to unleash some of the power under the scene. So as far as just getting your voice and getting your note done is one thing, but you're here and now you want to jump to your plan. You can actually program it to navigate through your template and go to the plan. And this might work. Jump to plan. And when you do that, it kind of goes through the steps, and it didn't pick up there like it was supposed to because I'm standing up here. We'll try it one more time and see if it'll work. Jump to plan. But what it is it's a program of several steps that you tell it to do, right? I want to close this window, I want to click HPI, or I want to close HPI, I want to go over, I want to click on plan, I want to scroll down in plan, I want to click on the plan patient instructions box, then I want to hit F4 for it to jump down and highlight the spot where I want to be able to start talking again, and I can say type 2 diabetes hyphen will continue glipizide 5 milligrams twice daily. Monofilament exam is normal today, follow up in 1 week. And it's pretty good doing all that stuff. Now, how do we make these commands and what do they look like? If you go under the personalization and under commands, it's really pretty straightforward how this stuff works. So you can see I've got my own command group there, and when you create a new command group, it'll ask you, do you want it to be available in a specific place, or do you want it to be available everywhere? I thought this meant for the whole group, so I thought as I was doing these commands, hey, that's great, you know, everyone in my office is going to be able to use these. No, that's not how it works. You can set the commands to only work in certain screens on Meditech or in Microsoft Word or in Excel, but they're not available for other people to use. Now, if you've got some really cool commands that you think, hey, I could share these with the group, Gail, we can do that, right?
Yep, we can do a copy over to.
Yeah, so we can do a copy over, or I think we can also store them in the main dictionary that everyone can use.
Yep.
Yeah. But what I found with that is these commands are very, very touchy. So I've built several that allow me to open Hippocrates and UpToDate and the PDMP and do some neat things. But if you go moving things around on your screen, the computer doesn't know that. All the computer knows is I go 45 pixels up and I go 127 pixels over, and then I double click. But once you set that up, it can really help you navigate quite fluently. So just showing you the bones of how this works, I think the one I just did was jump to plan. And what it does, make sure I click that button, when this opens up, we see that there are 13 steps involved in me doing that. And you know, what it does is it simulates pressing F12, which is a shortcut to say OK and next. And then I've learned in building commands, and you'll want to do this as well, after every step put a wait. Because you know how Meditech, sometimes there's that unexpected log and that unexpected wait. If you give everything a quarter or a half a second, just to let Meditech catch up with you, because you know you're depending on a lot of different variables with the wireless and the communication back and forth from the server, a little wait time really helps things work. And then then I had page down for whatever reason, then there's a wait, and then you hit page down again, and what exactly am I looking at? So, I'm paging down.
To go across your tabs like the time?
to go across my tabs. And then it's jumping in right where I wanted it to be. So, and then there's a couple weights there, and then it's automatically tabbing, and then there's a return, and then there's an F4 which captures the spot that you put in the template in brackets that tells it where to go. To build these though, if there's anything that you're doing in the EMR, if you really look at it click by click, what am I doing, then you just tell it here. If you want to input text, you just say text. But typically what I'm doing is I'm clicking on mouse, and when you click on mouse, it'll say, all right, actually I'm going to do a new command so I don't ruin the one that doesn't work very well. But when you click on mouse, it's going to say, where do you want it to originate from? And then where do you want it to change to? So I'll click on it, I'll say, all right, we're going from the top left corner, and say I want to click on the PFSH up there. I'll click on change, I'll highlight over PFSH, and then I'll hit the space bar. And then I'm going to call this command, how about history? Or it's good to start them with a verb. So go to history, and we'll apply that. And it should work now from wherever I am. If I tell this thing, fingers crossed, go to history, and then it's going to put the mouse there, and it's going to click, and then boom, you're in history. So you can see pretty quickly how easy it would be to build the commands to navigate through your template. Go to history, go to exam, go to assessment and plan. But let's look at some of those commands again. Personalization.
Can you change the commands depending on what template you've opened up?
So you would have to have a different command potentially for each template.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. And you'd have to remember how you name those. It's not, I guess it's not quite that easy, but it's not that complicated either. Let's see. So if we go in to add one here, and so that's the mouse. And then if you select key, it'll say, all right, what keystrokes do you want to do? And then, well, I want to hit backspace twice, and then I want to hit enter, and then I want to hit page up. You just enter those, and then it does all those in sequential fashion. If there's something that you wanted to hit text for, then you would maybe put in a username. Now, I'll tell you as the IT advisor to never put your passwords in here. This is being recorded. Never put your passwords in here is my official statement. Never. Never. But damn, does it make things easy. But don't do that. Don't do that. So, what I did, and just to kind of show you how it can work. So if you are in a template and you wanted to go to the PDMP, so just look at the steps, right? In your mind, you would go down, you'd click on the globe icon, and I'll have you hit F2 in a second. You'd go down, you'd hit the globe icon, then you would click PDMP, and then it would launch into PDMP. It would prompt you for your username and password. Now, as we go through this script, I've not stored the username and password in Fluency. It's actually stored in whatever the web browser is, which is a much secure way to store the PDMP password. Then it'll click Login. Then it'll click Open Patient Report. And then it'll bring you to the screen where you need to be. And if you can imagine, you're in the room with the patient, you need to check that real quick. There's a lot of steps to go through. But if you hit F2, you can write the script so that it does that, then it goes up and clicks the PDMP, then it clicks the sign in, then it clicks the open report, and then you're kind of there. So as you take the time and build these commands, you can do kind of some fancy stuff with it. Now, looking at that, what other things does that make you think of that we might be able to build that would be useful to share? The immunization database is one. And that one we can do the same way. I think if you close out that window, Brian, and then hit the X on the top, sorry. Me? And then here. So So going to the Wisconsin immunization database is kind of, it's very similar. So again, the username and password is stored in the browser and not within Fluency. But do you see how it's just saying, hey, I want the mouse to click here, I want the mouse to click here, then I want it to click over here, and then I want it to click here and leave the cursor there so I'm ready to start typing and move forward. That simple bit of scripting, I think, is going to help us with a lot of frustration with the EMR. One thing that I've been working on that I haven't been able to do is get it to jump to a growth chart. Growth charts are the bane of my existence, and they're not always on the same place every time you go into that summary screen. Depending on how many problems the patient has, it gets moved down. And I can't tell it to go look for something and click. I've got to tell it by pixels. So we're a little bit limited there. But someone give me something, why don't we just build a script together and see how it works, and I think you'll be much more comfortable doing this on your own.
Open the problem list.
Open the problem list. Yeah, Hippocrates and Up to Date we have as well, and those are really easy scripts. And then we'll build the problem list. So I'll stand over here so my back's not to everyone. I think I got it here. So if we wanted to, build one to jump to Hippocrates, all right, there we go. This cable is very touchy.
I guess it is.
Yeah, all right. If you wanted to build one to jump to Hippocrates, it'd be the same thing, right? We would open this up, and then we would find Hippocrates, and we would click there. So the way to script that, it's either F5 or F6. We'll try F5 first. So it'll open that up. It'll go to the top, and sorry, that one was Up to Date, which you would do in the same way. So we'll look at how do we jump to the problem list. Now, first, and John, this was your suggestion, thank you. Where would you be starting from when you jump to the problem list? Because it's only going to do exactly what we tell it. So are you typically in the HPI? Are you typically documenting within the HPI?
Yeah.
Or are you at maybe this screen?
Oh yeah, probably from that. That would make sense.
Probably from here
From
or from within text?
let's just go from within the HPI text.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce, you have a question?
Just a quick question, would it be easier to have a hotkey on your keyboard that would automatically dial up PDMP and bypass the particular template you're using in Meditech and the building the sequence?
Yes, so, and I have those built as hotkeys, which is one thing that Fluency allows you to do. So you go in and you create your scripts and you give it a verbal command, right? Open Hippocrates, open problem list. Or you can assign it to a key, and you can assign it to any of the function keys. So then, Bruce, you can set yours every time you hit F3, it opens up
And
Hippocrates.
that would be regardless of the template you're using.
That, exactly, regardless of the template you're using. So the scripts will work from anywhere, which is really helpful. You do have to be within Meditech for that to work, because it's not necessarily launching your browser and entering the web address. What it's doing is it's going to the link within Meditech and doing it that way.
So if you have half a dozen, it might just be easier if I use PDMP all the time. I just hit F1 and it just jumps to that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it was worth it for me building and the four main ones are PDMP, Immunization Registry, Hippocrates, and Up to Date. And those were worth taking a little bit of time and building those. But all right, so John, you want to go to the problem list from here?
Maybe that would be a little easier a little more systematic. Would be opening practice notes, because I'll always be looking at the last practice note. And that would be from the practice screen. Right before I even go into the room to see the patient.
Before you even go into the room to the patient, you want to be looking at your, oh shoot, I'll say.
Just to save some process.
Yeah. So you want to be looking at your progress note. No, not progress notes. You want to look at your schedule, right?
Yeah, so from the schedule screen, open practice notes for that patient.
I promise I've done this before. All right, so from here, how do you go into the practice notes? All right, so
Open
we'll
yeah.
be,
So you click on the patient, then open practice notes.
that's right. Yeah, so looking at the steps, let's go through those first and then we'll go through how we build them. So we would click on the test patient live, right? We'd click on the patient and you would think that would open it, but that doesn't work. So more particularly, we need to click on the open chart, right?
Yes.
So we want to click right there on that. And then we want to go over to practice notes.
Correct.
And we want to click here.
Yep.
And then notice it takes a couple seconds and then it brings us into the screen where all the practice notes are.
Right.
So there's just a couple steps there and that should be fairly easy to build. Let's see if it is. All right, so we'll go up here and we'll go under our personalization and then down to commands. And the first thing we want to do is what? We'll start a new one. And we'll call it, oh, and it says to do these with caps for whatever reason. Open practice notes, all right? And then the first thing we want to do is click on this icon. So we'll select mouse and we'll anchor it in the top left corner and we want it to left click there and then we want to click on change and then it activates the thing so you can tell what you're doing. Put the crosshairs right there and you can tell by the coordinates that are next to the crosshairs 202, 148.
Sure.
This is what it's remembering and then you hit the space bar. So if we change anything on this screen, like if you scroll down on this screen and if you're not at the very top of your practice schedule, this one's not going to work. So what we would actually have to, well, and we'll do this, we'll make it work, and then we can kind of play with the variables after that. So we've got that step, and then, you know, it's going to give it a second to kind of think and go to that next screen. And then we'll actually go to the next screen. And what it does is it just minimized the add a command down here below.
Okay.
And then we'll open the add a command, and next we want to do another mouse click, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll anchor it this time where I find it more reliable if you anchor it closest to where you're going to be clicking. So we'll anchor it in the top right corner.
Okay.
And we'll hit click. And you'll notice now it's anchored in the top right corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll highlight practice notes and we'll hit the space bar to save that step.
Mm-hmm.
Then if we hit apply, it saves it and it's ready to go. If we hit OK, it saves it and closes it. So if you wanted to save it as you're kind of going, like you got 8 steps deep and you're like, ooh, I don't want to lose that, you can hit apply.
Mm-hmm.
So we called that open practice notes. Now I should be able to say open practice notes from our screen. Do I need to go back one more? From the schedule, and it should work. Open practice notes. So it clicks there, and notice 1 second may or may not have been enough. It wasn't quite enough time.
Gotcha.
So hey, we need to troubleshoot that. So we'll go back into commands, and we'll go down and find open practice notes. And then, you know what, we want to give it 2 seconds there. We want to give it time to kind of think and do what it needs to do. So we'll close out. Yeah, there's some trial and error here, right? Open practice notes. So again, it clicks in the same spot. It waits, were 2 seconds enough? All right, so it was just enough to get it done. Now, to answer Bruce's question from earlier, as he's getting up and trying to leave, you can actually, under personalization, go down to device buttons, and this is where we can set it to a hotkey. So go to practice notes is something you do every time. If we go into device buttons and we want to add a new one, and it'll say what device button do you want to do. I don't think I'm using F11. So we'll say F11, and then we can select a command, and then you can choose from your list of commands. and here is open practice notes, and then we can save that. And then we can close out of there. And now when I go back to the screen, I can hit F11 and it's going to run through that script exactly as we had stored it. So can you start to see how this can be helpful? Yeah, Ron?
This is a problem with what you just did though. It's going to open the practice note on the first patient of the list. So if I'm on the 5th patient of the day,
Yep.
You gotta click that patient first and then say open practice notes.
it'll,
Yeah, so,
Click on
and
that patient, highlight that patient.
it won't go to the, it only knows coordinates. It doesn't know.
Oh, right.
it only knows coordinates, that's right. So
That's
what
a
we
good point,
built
yeah.
would only work for the first one. Now, would it be better if you were, say, in the chart and then have it jump to practice notes, right? So then you could do it because this over here stays the same relatively. So then you could be anywhere within the chart, or you could be in the document. And Meditech, though archaic, a lot of the frustrating things is, oh, why can't we move things around on the screen? Is actually because they're so hardwired with functionality like this that they want everything to be in the same place, so all these commands that you built still work. So, you know, the practice notes being right there on the right side, it's going to be in the same place every time. So if you're, you know, typically doing other things and you just want to be able to jump to practice notes, then you can do that and it'll be able to find it. But Ron, you bring up a great point. If you're trying to pick something from a fluid list, it's going to be really hard to do unless you find a way to standardize that first. That's a good pickup. Questions about how to build commands? Does it kind of make sense? Did I give anyone enough information that they feel they might be brave enough to go try it on their own?
Is there a,
Show of hands,
so
maybe a
you
blink.
can you put, so you can do keys also, so if there's a key that is effective for navigating Meditech.
Yep, such as F12 or F9 or F4.
Because then some of that stuff that doesn't require the exact pixel location
Right,
will be effective.
right.
Yes. So, you know, sometimes, like when you're signing your notes, occasionally it comes up with that you have to hit a C to close it or something, you know what I'm
Right,
talking about?
right.
And that C is underlined.
Right.
So you can have a keystroke to sign notes. And I built, in fact, let me show you what I built to sign notes, because it's the same 3 steps over and over and over, and then I can sign 25 notes at a time. And the way that works under personalizations, commands.
Keystroke commands.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. We're going to put that together.
Because then this becomes a lot more powerful.
Yeah.
So I've got a command called sign my notes. And it assumes that I'm in that screen, that I've said, okay, now I want to sign my notes. It asks you to import or input your PIN. And let's see if it's going to open for me here. And then it's to the part where you're clicking sign, 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 close, sign, 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 sign. You know what I'm talking about when I say that close? Because you get that little stop every now and then that, hey, something has changed or whatever. And, Gail, why is that not opening for me?
I don't know.
It's all Gail's fault. Should have had filler music. All right, so this thing's tired of me monkeying with it. But the way you would do that, and we'll just close out of this, is just to kind of imagine this. This is what happened all the time when I used the app on my phone, is it would shut down like this all the time. All right, so we have closed out of fluency. But looking at any repetitive processes that we're doing in the EMR, those are going to be easy to program with a command. So if we go into signed documents, and you know I've got several here, and you know then I'm just clicking sign and sign again and sign again, and then occasionally this is that close screen where the C is underlined, so I can actually set a keystroke to say just hit C, and then it'll close that, and then it'll move on to the next note. So any repetitive task, so it says sign, quarter second, C, quarter second, sign, quarter second, C. Because whether the C is there or not, it doesn't matter. You want it to just hit it, and then kind of keep going through the process. And it's a great way to kind of automate some of those brainless things that we do every day.
I was just thinking how funny it is that we use the functionality of building a macro to get around the useless alerts that it creates for us.
Right?
That's awesome.
I know. I know. Well, Meditech wouldn't give us the ability to sign things en masse. So we brought in Fluency, who said, hey, I'll let you do it.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah,
think
with
this
the
is
robots.
great, but I think I wanted to just share this comment because I still feel the majority of us providers are still in the legacy mode of typing in our charts. That's what it is, bottom line. And what I have found, if you're seeing 4 patients a day, perhaps that would not be much of an issue. But if you see 20 to 30 patients a day, this voice recognition and the dragon and all of this has really shortened and made our work more efficient. So I think the first step probably is not even to think about the detail and complexity and the other aspects, just for the documentation purposes that you would want to do. It just simplifies things so dramatically. This is at least what my experience is. So I think that is the first step in actually taking on and be adapters for this kind of
Technology, yeah.
That is the first step.
Yeah, and I would say that the added benefit to that is that when I was typing, when I would find myself doing, because you only have so much time. That never changes. So you figure out how to do, what you need to do within a certain amount of time. So when I was typing, I wasn't adding as much detail to my notes as I should have for others to understand what my thought process was. And so this is where, I don't know that my time has been pretty even, but the quality of my documentation has gone up. My HPI is tells more of a story. Part of my assessment of plan, I'm saying this is what I thought and why I thought it, where I would never have taken enough time to type all that well prior.
100% agreed. I think that the quality of reporting actually, the quality of dictation changes dramatically. So I think that's what we need to push for, is that as many providers take on to this technology activity.
I would just support a lot of that, because I can type pretty fast, so it's not really a time thing. But as I've gotten used to using the M-modal, the quality of my notes is so much better that the assessment plan and the history, just because I'm thinking out loud rather than just being like, quarter this, all of this, do this, my thought process is actually, which helps everybody else reading it. And it's pretty reliable for sure, but also we've kind of seen the flow kind of goes for our own office, because we have so many providers, and each of us have had different levels of willingness, interest. We feel like the way we're doing things is fine, and we've kind of seen each other as we watch each other learn to use that modal, want to get on board, and people that were really resistant have completely adopted it, and it's changed the way we do a lot of our notes. And I think we've had some improvements overall from it. And so I would just really encourage everyone to consider trying it if you have any hesitation, because it really has made a difference even for a lot of our providers that were kind of like, I don't need that, I'm glad it works for you guys, but I don't need it, and then we've seen everybody kind of get on board, so.
In the old days, we used to have transcription service. The reason is because we didn't want to write or type because our notes would have been the same, and transcription was free. Now that voice recognition is becoming much more accurate and reliable, it's beginning to approximate the services we used to have with a live transcription service.
And
the whole argument was getting used to voice recognition.
I've been very pleased with the voice recognition quality, which is why I really didn't tried to spend very little time on that today, and I wanted to even go a step beyond and go, oh, in addition to, it's not just a tip calculator, it actually has a lot of other functionality. and you can, you can program those commands to kind of take it a step further and do things that our EMR won't let us. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, my thing is that because of the handiness of having had it on the iPhone, that sometimes I could, if the patient left the room and I knew I had a little bit, once in a blue moon I could dictate before I left the room. I find it a little bit more awkward because of the need to use the microphone, which is big, long cord. And I can't do it at home. A lot of times I don't even get a chance to dictate more than 2 charts during the course of the day. Which means I need to do this at home if I want to be done.
If you're only able to do 2 notes in the course of your day, that's a problem. You and I need to sit down.
We can sit down, but
The EMR should be easier than that.
It's not the EMR, it's the complex patient and the time that I spend in with the patient. It's not the EMR.
Okay.
But I don't have a problem sitting down and learning how to use the EMR more efficiently. So
Okay.
where I'm really coming from is the portability. I thought that using this new system would get me where I'm not constantly reviewing and editing my notes. A lot of times when we're going through transcription, they would put some really wacky, crazy stuff in there. And I was, for one while, I was told I was the main person complaining, and then finally other providers started reading their notes, and they realized
That's
how
why they weren't
bad
complaining.
those notes were, and then they started complaining.
So have you found fluency to be cumbersome
It's
in that
better.
regard?
No, it's just the mic. The mic is what's cumbersome for me. So that if it's the end of the day and the staff's trying to leave and I don't want to be there by myself,
Yep.
I can't take this and finish up with my notes that I have on the patient.
Where are we with that, Gail? Because there were issues with it working over our VPN.
No, I use it at home on the VPN.
And does it work? Because
Works fine.
they've been
I
actively
don't
working
have,
on it.
they haven't given me a VPN. I
Aha.
asked for that and they haven't decided whether I qualify. So the
Gail,
work is not
can you help
being
Miss
done
Cheryl
maybe
out?
as
I can do that.
efficiently or as timely
we're going
as
to get you a
could,
VPN.
so.
Anyone opposed to Dr. Meyer getting a VPN?
All right. Hey, I should speak up a little more. But,
No, things like that are ridiculous
But
when
see,
they
here's
happen.
the
They didn't want to
problem.
give me one either. and I'm
They
like,
said if they
"No."
gave me a VPN, then I couldn't have access on the phone. Then they want me to look at my email. Well, I'm not going to waste my time trying to read all the emails that I get from this organization on this phone. I'm just being honest. So they told me I
That's an
couldn't have-
iPhone 3S, by the way.
Yeah, but they told me that I either had it on the phone or I had the VPN
I'll
on the
let you
computer.
know.
So-
Okay.
So that's
Well,
the problem.
Let
That's
us see.
one of the
Let us
problems.
see what we can do for you, because sometimes those things just kind of get lost in translation. Downstairs, it's not that they're trying to be bullies. It's just they have rules, and sometimes they
Sure, I
don't understand why the VPN would be so important to you.
We've not gotten really to commands. Those are very valuable. Pre-canned text for the stuff you go over every day with patients repetitively. You can throw it in your discharge summary note.
Yep.
It goes out the door, and it really helps.
Yeah, and it's essentially like making quick text using the voice recognition. And what essentially you do to do that is you speak a text one time, then you highlight it and you say save this text, and then you call it what you like, and then
How
you
many
bring it
times do we tell them symptomatic treatment, do this,
Yep.
this? I have a command symptomatic, that's all I say, and it types up the whole spiel for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just say, because we probably weren't able to see a lot of it in the efficiency of it, because it seems like maybe it won't save you a whole lot of time. But I sit next to LeGros all day long in our office.
God bless you.
We're
Most of
sorry.
most of the last week or two, I'm sitting here just shaking my head, listening to him say, sign 20 orders, sign 20 orders, sign notes, open task, send patient this, close task, next task. And I'm just sitting there in awe at how quickly he's able to just keep moving through stuff. So even, well, no, but
My head's not going to fit through that door.
as I sit here looking at this, it seems kind of a little overwhelming and daunting, and that's how he's done all this. But, and you probably can't appreciate the reward of it, but sitting next to him the last couple weeks, I've been like, when are you gonna teach us how to do this? Because I need to be able to do that too. So just as someone who's actually getting to see the benefit of how efficient this can be, it's enough to be envious over when you're sitting in the same office and someone who's just flying through a lot of these tedious tasks that drive us crazy. So,
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, I
Sure.
found it was really good for using the voice recognition when I was in a task. Because a lot of times when you're typing, I type paragraphs and they've been deleted. But, you know, from hitting the
Hitting the wrong
mouse-
key?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the mouse pad. So that is helpful.
Good. Good. Well, thank you everyone for your attention this morning. You know, I guess my goal here is for you to leave here and be brave enough to try some of this on your own. And if you have any issues, just feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Gail, and we'll have some one-on-one time with you to get you up and running. Thank you.
Did we install?
Oh, you did wonderful, Ryan. I knew I could count.